Good afternoon. This is Daniel Broniatowski from the Maestro Musicians Academy, and today we're going to talk about the question of how much should my beginner child be practicing? This is a question that we often get asked, and I thought it would be a good idea to maybe put some parents' minds at ease, because it is a question that actually tends to worry quite a few parents when they ask themselves the question, is my child ready for lessons yet? So I'm going to answer simply first, and then we'll get into more detail. The simple answer is that a beginner does not need to practice much at all. Now let's talk about why that is, how that is, and what that means. When you start at a young age, let's say you're 4 to 6 years old, at the beginning you're learning very elementary concepts. You're learning an introduction to the instrument. You're learning about the parts of the instrument. You're learning about posture. You're developing good habits, hopefully. And a good instructor's role is to nurture those good habits. And what I'm going to say is twofold and somewhat contradictory. There is always a possibility that when a child goes home and wants to practice what he or she has learned, because, well, the attention span is short, they might be enthusiastic, which is great, but they might actually develop bad habits because they can't have the teacher with themselves every day of the week. So in a way, it's not actually required or advisable for a student to be at the instrument every single day of the week for even 15 minutes. That being said, there are kids who pick up things very quickly and are very enthusiastic, and we never want to dampen that enthusiasm. So what do we do? So what we do is we do recommend that for these kids, they do practice as much as they can and as much as they want, and no more. So what I mean by that is we're not looking for kids to be able to have a routine at the beginning. They don't need to have a set day and time or set times every day where they practice. However, we do want them to have a good and established positive association with the instrument and with coming back to the lessons week after week. What happens is after a certain period of time, let's say 6 months, but this is not set in stone, this relationship between the between the teacher and the student has been established. And what happens then is that there's a line of communication that is open and more receptive on the student's part to doing what the teacher says. So this is often the time, sometimes it happens earlier, sometimes it happens later, where a teacher might say, Johnny, I'd really like you to practice 15 minutes a day, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And depending on the student's level of interest, and maybe if there's an opportunity coming up to perform something, the student might take to it quite naturally. So this is a motivating factor. We also know that some kids are motivated by stickers and prizes, where others, it doesn't work at all. So that's a topic for another day. However, I will say that as a parent, you know your child best, and sometimes these kinds of motivations can also be very helpful. So I hope this video was helpful to you in terms of giving you a little bit of an introduction as to how much a child needs to or should practice at the beginning. I will say that if a child is older, let's say above the age of 6 or 7, these restrictions on not practicing too much at the beginning don't really apply so much, particularly because a good instructor will be able to write down specifically what can be done at the beginning stages, and the student can just read in a notebook what is to be done at home. And it is also much more likely that his or her attention span and ability to just follow basic directions is much more developed at this stage. Some amazing things happen to the human brain between the ages of 6 and 7. So other than that, I would say that just because a student is 5 or 6 or even 4 and they are not ready to practice does not mean that they are too young to begin an instrument. In fact, it's contrary. We want them to begin earlier, maybe not if they're not ready or mature enough, but we want them to begin early because of the fact that first they are establishing the routine, which is so important, which is coming to lessons every week and that relationship with the teacher. And they are also establishing the fact that they're developing that posture, which when the younger they are, the more natural the posture of playing an instrument will become more intuitive as they get older. Some people have also made the argument that the muscles are much more supple at the younger ages, and I believe there's some element of truth to that, particularly before the teenage years. So that's all I got today, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this little advice column on practicing, and until next time, bye.